Welcome to the Shema Podcast, the podcast for the perplexed, where Torah insights, intertwined through personal stories, as well as interviews with leading Torah scholars, demonstrate the empowering qualities of Torah and mitzvot. To share feedback, suggest future topics, or ask questions for the host or his guests, click the show notes to join the growing WhatsApp community. Now to the show.
Welcome back, my friends, to another episode of the Shema Podcast. In the final installment of the year 2025, I tracked seasons from the beginning according to the Gregorian calendar. And this wraps up season 6 of this podcast, which is unbelievable that I'll be starting my 7th season tomorrow. And I'll be doing that with a new series called Strive for Truth with Rabbi Michael Cohen, where we go through in depth into a deep analysis and understanding of this amazing sefer from Rav Dessler. When I started this podcast, my goal was simply to reach out to Jews who were like me, who were brought up very secular, who were brought up with a worldview that Torah was a man-made document, that it was mostly a cultural institution and no different from any other religion, which are all cultural institutions. And I wanted to reach out and get them to see what I finally learned later in life, that is not the case, that the Torah has divine authorship, and that we as Jews have a very important purpose in this world. And this world itself has a very important purpose, a grand master plan that's so perfect and so beautiful. And in the process of creation and perfecting the world, we as the Jewish people are central to that. And the world needs us in order to bring about this perfection and clarity and truth of the world in our relationship with our Creator. And I approached it by doing episodes where I would seek answers to questions that either I had or I knew I had at previous points in my life. Those I knew that were sort of common questions that Jews who are entertaining the idea of looking back at their Torah would ask and would have. I thought I had a unique vantage point that I could bring to the table by being someone who had spent the majority, the first 40 years of his life as a very devout atheist. So the goal was to bring on a large diversity of rabbis, real rabbis, to answer these questions. And the goal was not only to get the questions answered by really knowledgeable and bright people, but it was also to sort of tear down this idea that these religious Jews, quote unquote Orthodox Jews, were weird and not relatable or judgmental. It's hurting us because so many, I know, Jews in the secular world, the answers to all the questions they have are with these people in the Jewish community, in the Torah observant world, but they're afraid to approach them because they see them as so different. By bringing on more and more rabbis, it was allowing me to sort of show people that these are just really cool, relatable, fun, nice people. I wanted people to see, and I think I did that by getting people to see, like listening to one of the guests I would have on and say, like, I could see myself chilling out with that person and having a beer. I think that was my goal. Like, if the person listening be like, I could hang out with that person. That's what I wanted. So that wherever the listener would find themselves in this exile around the world, that they would approach that quote unquote Orthodox rabbi, befriend them, make them their teacher, and begin to learn their Torah the way it should be learned in a teacher to student relationship. But I will say the podcast has evolved, or not changed, but I think the direction of the podcast I've refined. And I really have worked over the years to bring it back to, I would say, 2 central ideas that are very tied together. One is that, the word Torah means instructions. And I think many would benefit greatly from knowing that and being reminded of that. The word Torah does not mean stories. A lot of people read a lot of the Torah, a lot of the stories are what they remember from their only education was up to the age of 13 when they had a bar mitzvah, and they remember a bunch of biblical stories. And I think the Torah is conveying some stories. It's not. It's conveying, the word Torah means instructions. It's conveying instructions. It doesn't mean history. It means instructions. And what is the Torah instructing us to do? For most of us guys, when we think of the word instructions, we think of the thing that we go to when all else has failed, which for most of us at a later life learning Torah, that's precisely what we have done. Everything else has failed. Pursuing just money and physical pleasures, it's empty. It doesn't work. There's something always missing. The Torah is an instruction on spirituality, but I want to get even more specific than that to really define what this means to be a spiritual person. And it ties into a lot of the teachings I have learned and taught from the Baha Salam and from Rav Dessler in the book Strive for Truth that I've been learning, that I'll be doing this new series on. And that is the idea that we come into this world as entirely selfish human beings. And the goal is to become selfless. If you picture your dashboard of your car, you have a speedometer, 0 at one side, going way too fast on the other. But if you think about going through life, that throttle that we're really working on is that it's a throttle that goes from on one side being totally selfish, on the other side being selfless. But quite frankly, that is an ongoing, unreachable place because our Creator, Hashem, is nothing but giving. He had to create will to receive because it did not exist within him, so that this world and we could exist. And all the Torah and all of the mitzvos observance is about allowing us to move from a place of selfishness to selflessness, of taker to giver. And the more we align as a giver, the more we align ourselves with Hashem. And that is how we achieve spirituality. But it's a complex task. From when we have a body that pulls us into the direction of being selfish, and we have a Yetzer Hara that in the intellectual plane, in the spiritual plane, is also trying to draw us into the realm of selfishness, the Sitra Achra, the other side. And so it's an ongoing effort. And so when I look at Torah and what I'm trying to do as I learn Torah is, if the word Torah, as it does, means instructions, that means that if you are learning Torah and it's just something interesting to you, a nice tidbit of information, then you're not doing it right. Everything we learn in Torah is an instruction for how to improve ourselves in this area, to break free from the disease of selfishness and to align ourselves with our Creator and be selfless. And the Jew is a pipeline. And the more we align ourselves with our Creator in this way, the more we allow Hashem to come into the world. We are the gatekeepers. So it's not even about us. It's about the world at large, at working on ourselves continually to be like this. Not easy, but that's the goal. A lot of people constantly ask me about having certain people on the podcast, which I'm always happy to talk to new people, ecstatic about doing so. But the podcast is not a talk show. It's not like the Tonight Show. I'm not looking to just bring on personalities. My goal is to learn the instructions for living and then sometimes teach those myself if I feel like I've mastered the content, or bring on outside people to help teach that content. But that is it. And then the other area of content that I want to continually produce too is content that will help Jews continually see the divine authorship of the Torah. So they will engage the Torah in this way as well. So that is the goal, and that is what the focus is continuing to be on is taking Torah ideas and finding and teaching them for practical application on how we can change ourselves from that Torah. Not to sit there and say, wow, that's a really cool, fascinating idea, but to use it to change who we are. It's why I really try to break down terminology. And this is an ongoing effort. It never ends. A fool would walk out to a beach on the coast of California, walk a few yards into the ocean and say, you know what? The Pacific Ocean's not that deep. They're full. Keep walking and you will see how deep that ocean gets. That is the metaphor for Torah, but it's also a metaphor for what Torah is, which is this goal of further and further aligning ourselves with our Creator, who is the only thing that is perfect. We can never achieve it, but the goal is to continually work towards achieving that. I was with my brother-in-law the other day, my wife's sister's husband, not Jewish, but check this out. Something I learned that was so incredible from him. But he is a competitive shooter, meaning he engages in competitions where they shoot targets that are 1,200 yards away, which is insane. Sometimes 1,500 yards away. Just for a framework, a mile is 1,760 yards. And the other thing that he does, he's a computer guy, but his side profession, his side business, is he is a gunsmith. Apparently people who are into firearms, a lot of them want to enhance the firearm they already have. This is all legal, but they like to add things and customize them and things like that. That's what he does. But it's also necessary, he was telling me, to be a competitive long-range shooter, or whatever it's called, that he makes his own guns. And here's why. And this is an incredible insight into, on a metaphorical basis, to the work at hand. So he brought me out to his garage where he has all his equipment. He was showing me that the diameter of a barrel also has within it the diameter of the hole that the bullet travels through. And the level of precision is so necessary. He showed me on his machine how he was able to get the distance, the concentric distance from the hole that the bullet traveled through to the outside of the barrel of the gun. He was able to get it to what was equivalent, what was the distance of a strand of human hair. And on this gauge he was showing me, it looked like a quarter of an inch, but he was explaining that quarter of an inch represents the distance of a human hair. As I was looking at it and he was rotating the barrel in the machine, looked perfection to me. But he said it was far from perfection. Matter of fact, it wasn't even usable. With it being off by a distance of the thickness of a human hair, the problem is that it being off by that amount, by the time the bullet leaves the barrel and goes out 50 yards, it's already off target. Goes out 100 yards, it's way off target. You get to 1,000 yards, it's not even close to the target. It's matter of fact, it's dangerous to have such a gun because if you're aiming for a target and it's off by the distance of a human hair, by the time you get 1,000 yards away, you're going to hurt someone accidentally. It's not even safe. So then he showed me this next tool he used where he breaks that, what looked like a quarter of an inch, which again was the measurement of the thickness of a human hair, into 100,000 parts. Again, breaking the distance of a human hair into 100,000 parts. And then he began the real work of removing all that imperfection all the way down to where it was precise, so that he knew that when that bullet left the barrel, it would hit that target 1,200, 1,500 yards away. When you read the Torah, Hashem has to do this for us all the time. When you read about the sin that Reuben made, the verse itself says, and it came to pass, when Israel dwelt in the land, this is after Rachel passed away, that Reuben went and lay with Bilhah, his father's concubine, and Israel heard it. And of course, you read that and you went, oh, that's really disturbing. Reuben had sex with his mother-in-law? And you read the commentary in the Midrash, it says Reuben moved his father's bed from Bilhah's tent to his mother Leah's tent, protesting that after Rachel died, that Yochel placed his bed in Bilhah's tent, which is Rachel's maidservant, rather than Leah's, his mother, his first wife. Now, if the Torah had said just that, I would have read that and said, it makes sense what Reuben did. Hashem knows that. I wouldn't have seen the problem there. But just like that small imperfection, when the bullet moves further and further away from the rifle, but it's going in a wrong direction. It's the same idea here. It's an error. It's a sin because it's off target. And the further you're on that trajectory, moving his father's bed from Bilhah's tent to Leah's tent, that act, going out further and further and further on that trajectory, becomes equivalent or does end up manifesting itself as literally lying with your father's wife, your stepmother. Hashem had to remove the bullet, if you will, further and further away so I could see what happens on the long-term trajectory of that sin. So I could see there's a problem here. That is why everything in the Torah that's so critical of our forefathers is doing just this. It's so critical of them because they, our forefathers, are like the barrel of the gun where the bullet leaves. They are our forefathers. They set everything in motion. So everything they did had to be refined to perfection. And as we know from the episode, if you heard it, on the sages of the Talmud with Morty Roth, we did one on the martyrs, which the Kabbalah teaches us are the brothers of Yosef, who even at their levels had further refinement that was required of them. And for this reason, Hashem is pushing us to refine ourselves down to similar to my brother-in-law who looks at a rifle and looks at a distance the width of a human hair and realizes this is off. I got to break it down to 100,000 units and refine it further. It has to be on key. It has to be on target. The word for sin in Hebrew is chet, which means, the root means to miss the mark. So that's my goal, my friends, with the podcast. And I don't monetize this. I even remove the Torch logo. I'm really not part of the Torch organization. I'm just a listener of those great rabbis as well, like you. But I did that because I want to make very clear that I don't want anything in return. I'm not going to ask you for money. Not that, there's nothing more holy than giving money to outreach rabbis, but I want to make very clear, I don't receive anything from Torch. Especially when I left the board, I'm really not associated with Torch. I'm just a fellow fan like you. But I don't monetize this. I don't plan to. I just want to, quite frankly, I want to learn for myself and share that learning with others for whoever wants to listen. And I love the amount of friends I've made through this podcast. I love those, and I encourage everyone listening to click in the show notes and join the WhatsApp community. It's a great group. It's a very eclectic group, which is, again, what's very important to me for Jews from all backgrounds and non-Jews who are B'nai Noach and then learning and studying how to fulfill the 7 mitzvos. But it's provided me a way of having a relationship, of connecting, to finding out what's on your mind, exploring ideas, getting your input. But that's all I'm trying to do, is just learn what I'm trying to learn to help myself, continue to again, do episodes that do get Jews to understand that the Torah is directly from their creator. It's their creator communicating to them, to you, to get them to understand how the entire world, when they look and they see all the pain and suffering in the world, that they are the solution. And it's not by doing anything external. It's all by doing something internal. It's by taking the Torah, the instructions, and refining themselves further and further. So I appreciate all of you who have come on this journey with me. Those of you who have reached out to me, thank you multiple times over. I really appreciate the friendship, to be able to learn from you and grow with you and grow because of you. So thank you. As we wrap up the year 2025, my 6th season, and begin our 7th season together. May it bring us all a tremendous amount of growth. May Hashem shower you with all material and spiritual blessings. Thank you so much for your listenership.
Thank you for listening, and if you enjoyed the episode and found it meaningful, please take a moment to rate, review, and share the podcast.